Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really getting into a classic. It's one that sparked, well, a lot of debate, but also some incredible transformations over the years. Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich.
That's right. And we're looking specifically at the 1937 public domain edition. It's fascinating because, despite its age, it makes this huge claim.
Huge is right. A universal philosophy for individual achievement.
Exactly. Hill's goal, really, was massive. He wanted to take what he learned from interviewing over 500 of the most successful people of his time. We're talking Andrew Carnegie, Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, people like that.
Titans, basically.
Right, titans, and then boil it all down into a clear path for anyone, really, to achieve any definite goal they set their mind to.
Whether that's money, fame, happiness, peace of mind, the principles are meant to be universal.
The book says they apply across the board.
So, our mission for you, listening in, is to join us on this deep dive. We're going to pull out the core ideas, the really practical steps Hill lays out for, well, turning desires into actual reality.
Yeah, think of it like we're doing the sifting for you. We want to get to the heart of how focused thought and, crucially, persistence can have this almost magnetic effect.
We'll be looking for those foundational insights, maybe some surprising facts, too, that could genuinely shift how you think about things. So let's kick off with a story, straight from the book, that really sets the stage.
It's a powerful one. It kind of captures the essence right from the start. It's about Edwin C. Barnes.
Ah, yes, Barnes.
This was, maybe 30 years before the book came out? And Barnes really lived this idea of thinking and growing rich.
His story is just incredible. It's not just ambition. It's like the definition of definite desire. He had this intense, almost consuming goal.
Not just to work for Thomas Edison, the famous inventor.
Right, not for him, but with him, to become his business associate. That was the specific thing.
And it wasn't some vague hope. It was, as you said, crystal clear, a singular obsession. He knew exactly what he wanted.
But the obstacles were, well, pretty immense, weren't they?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. He didn't know Edison at all. No connections. And maybe the biggest hurdle for most people, he didn't even have the money for a train ticket to get to Edison's lab in Orange, New Jersey.
That would stop most people right there.
You'd think so. But Barnes's desire wasn't ordinary. It was all-consuming. It had this fire behind it.
Definitely not ordinary. He was so focused, so determined, he decided to travel by what they call blind baggage.
Which sounds pretty rough.
It means basically sneaking onto a freight train, hiding in some dark corner, hoping you don't get caught or hurt. That's how determined he was just to get near his goal. The sheer will that takes.
It speaks volumes. So he finally gets there to Edison's lab, looking, apparently, well, Edison himself said he looked like an ordinary tramp.
Yeah, not exactly dressed for a business meeting.
Not at all. But he walks in and just announces his intention. I'm here to go into business with you. Just like that.
And Edison, who must have seen all sorts of people, he saw something different in Barnes, didn't he?
He did. Despite the appearance, Edison said there was something in his expression, something that just screamed determination, unshakable.
Edison had this quote, something like, when a man desires something so much, he'll stake his whole future on it.
He is sure to win.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Edison's take. And he gave Barnes a chance, not as an associate, not right away.
No, it was menial work, wasn't it? Very low-level stuff.
Extremely low level. But Barnes didn't care. He took it. Because it was a foot in the door, a step, however small, towards that one single goal he obsessed over.
And years later, it actually happened.
It did. His dominating dream, as Hill calls it, became reality. He was in business with Edison. It proves that definite desire, not just wishing, is the real starting point.
That story really hammers home that desire isn't passive hope. It's like an active force.
Exactly. It makes you resourceful. It pushes you to find ways, even uncomfortable ways, like riding a freight train, because the goal demands it. It's a total reorientation towards the outcome.
No room for retreat.
Yeah.
Hill uses that analogy of the warrior burning his ships.
Yeah, the idea that once you land on enemy shores, you burn the boats. You tell the troops, we win or we perish, there's no going back. And, the story goes, they won.
It's that level of commitment, all in.
Which really makes you think, doesn't it? How definite are your desires? Are you willing to, metaphorically burn the bridges? No plan B.
That's the core question Hill poses. You need to be able to say, with absolute clarity, what do you want most? Is it money, fame, contentment, peace, happiness? Get specific.
And he claims his 13 steps to riches are the roadmap, the shortest path for anyone who commits to that definite goal.
The initial steps being crucial, starting with that clear purpose.
Right. And then building this deep conviction. He instructs you to actually see and feel and believe yourself already in possession of what you want.
That's more than just positive thinking, isn't it?
Oh, much more. It's about infusing the goal with intense emotion, unwavering belief, making it an obsession, a constant mental picture guiding everything you do.
Like a blueprint in your mind. Believing it creates the path, almost.
You could say that. Look at Henry Ford and the V8 engine.
Another classic example. His engineers said it was impossible.
Flat out impossible. They tried for 6 months, then another 6. Nothing. They hit wall after wall.
But Ford wasn't having it.
Nope. His determination was legendary. He just told them, go ahead and stay on the job until you succeed, no matter how much time is required.
Non-negotiable.
And
Eventually, after a whole year of relentless effort, they found the secret. The impossible V8 engine became a reality. Ford's determination won.
It shows how knowing what you want and having that burning, emotionally charged desire is just paramount. Hill even says if you can't see riches in your imagination,
You'll never see them in your bank balance. It's stark, but it emphasizes that the mind is where it all begins.
that distinction is key. The fully believed, deeply felt mental blueprint. Okay, so if that's the start burning desire, definite purpose, what happens when you hit resistance? What keeps you going?
Well, that leads us straight into the next critical piece, persistence.
The ability to stick with it. Exactly. And Hill defines it not just as an action, but as a state of mind you cultivate. He calls it the carbon to steel of character.
Meaning it adds strength, fortitude.
Precisely. It's what turns flimsy resolve into something unbreakable. It's the difference between trying once and being unstoppable.
And the story that illustrates this, maybe tragically, is R.U. Darby and the gold mine.
Oh, yes, the 3 feet from gold story. It's almost painful.
So Darby and his uncle, they got gold fever, bought machinery, started digging.
Put in a lot of effort, a lot of investment, but then the vein of gold ore just seemed to disappear.
They hit a dry spell.
Right, and they got discouraged. They figured it was gone, so they quit. Sold all their equipment to a local junk man for just a few $100s, cut their losses.
But the junk man, he had a different idea.
He did. He wasn't a miner, but he was smart enough to think, maybe I should get an expert opinion before I just scrap this. So he hired a geological engineer.
And the engineer checks it out and says,
The bombshell. The main gold vein was literally 3 feet from where the Darbys had stopped digging. 3 feet.
unbelievable, just 3 feet away from potentially millions.
And the junk man, armed with that knowledge and the will to act on it, went on to extract millions of dollars in ore from that exact spot.
Ouch. That's a tough lesson. Makes you wonder how many times we all stop just short of a breakthrough, doesn't it?
It really does. Maybe not literal gold, but projects, goals. But Darby, even though he lost the gold, he learned something incredibly valuable.
Oh.
Years later, he went into selling life insurance, which is tough, lots of rejection. But he remembered that he made a vow.
What was the vow?
I stopped 3 feet from gold, but I will never stop because men say no when I ask them to buy insurance.
Wow. That experience forged something in him.
Absolutely. That quitability turned into unwavering stickability, and he became hugely successful, one of the top insurance salesmen in the country.
So the book's point is that defeat, or what looks like defeat, is almost inevitable before success.
Almost guaranteed. Hill says temporary defeat, even outright failure, is common. And when it hits, quitting seems like the easiest, most logical thing. And most people do quit.
But the successful ones?
His research showed their biggest successes often came just after the point where defeat seemed certain. Failure, he says, is a trickster. It loves to trip you up right when you're closest to the finish line.
So for you, listening, the takeaway is huge. Temporary defeat is not permanent failure.
Right. It's feedback.
Yeah.
It means your plans need adjusting, tweaking. Those setbacks aren't liabilities. They're assets that temper your spiritual mettle, making you stronger for what's coming.
Okay, so how do you actually cultivate this persistence? Is it just willpower?
Hill gives a specific formula, 4 steps. First, that definite purpose backed by burning desire, we covered that. Second, a definite plan, which you express through continuous action. Keep moving.
Makes sense. What else?
Third, and this is tough, a mind closed tightly against all negative influences. And he specifically includes relatives and friends here if they're discouraging you.
Wow, that's quite a statement. Close your mind to loved ones.
If their influence is negative or undermining your definite purpose, yes. His point is protecting your mental state is paramount. And fourth, A harmonious mastermind alliance.
Ah, the mastermind. We'll definitely need to unpack that one later.
We will, but those 4 steps are the foundation for building persistence.
He also lists other factors that help, right? Things like self-reliance.
Yes, definiteness of purpose, intense desire, self-reliance, which he says you develop via autosuggestion, telling yourself you can, definite plans, accurate knowledge, cooperation, willpower, and maybe most importantly, habit.
Habit. How so?
Persistence becomes a habit. Your mind gets used to the thoughts and actions you feed it daily. It absorbs persistence if you practice it consistently. Fear can become a habit too, unfortunately, if you allow it.
And we see this persistence in lots of famous people he mentions, like Fannie Hurst.
Absolutely. Rejected constantly for 4 years in New York, but she kept going and conquered Broadway. Or Kate Smith, who wasn't maybe the most technically gifted singer, but her persistence won her enduring fame.
Eddie Cantor, losing everything in the '29 crash, but rebuilding it all.
Through sheer persistence and courage, earning $10,000 a week eventually. Even W.C. Fields, older, facing setbacks, offered to work for free just to get into movies, and persisted until he found his niche.
So the pattern is clear. The secret ingredient is
Persistence.
always. Okay, so persistence is the steel, but what provides the spark, the inner fire? That brings us to faith, doesn't it?
It does. And again, Hill's definition of faith here is maybe a bit different from the purely religious one.
How does he define it?
As a specific state of mind that you can actually induce, that you can cultivate through autosuggestion.
Autosuggestion, meaning repeating things to yourself.
Essentially, yes. Systematically repeating thoughts, affirmations, beliefs, until your subconscious mind accepts them completely, unconditionally. He felt spiritual leaders told people to have faith, but didn't explain how.
So he's offering a practical method.
Exactly. He calls faith the eternal elixir that gives life, power, and action to thought. It's the starting point for accumulating riches, and critically, the only known antidote to failure.
And this is where it gets into that almost mystical territory, thoughts becoming magnetic.
You could say that. He suggests that thoughts, when they're mixed with strong emotions, specifically faith, but also love and sex, which will get to become a kind of magnetic force.
A magnetic force that does what?
That actively attracts similar thoughts, ideas, opportunities, even circumstances, drawing them towards you from, well, he calls it the ether. It influences your subconscious.
So it's not just planting a seed and waiting, it's like turning on a magnet.
That's a good analogy. A thought magnetized with emotion doesn't just sit there. It actively pulls in resources and energy, growing and attracting more like itself.
But here's the crucial part. The subconscious doesn't judge, right?
Absolutely critical. The subconscious mind is totally impartial. It has no moral compass. It will translate any thought impulse into its physical equivalent, whether that thought is positive, driven by faith and courage, or negative, driven by fear and doubt.
So it's a powerful engine, but you have to steer it carefully.
Precisely, because it will drive you wherever you program it to go. The examples are quite stark.
Like the bank official, Joseph Grant.
A tragic story. He embezzled funds, gambled them away. The bank examiner was coming. The fear, the disgrace, it overwhelmed him.
What did he do?
Locked himself in a hotel room just repeating, "My God, this will kill me. I cannot stand the disgrace," over and over. And within hours, he was dead.
Just from the thought.
Doctors called it mental suicide. A powerful negative suggestion, deeply impressed on the subconscious, manifested physically. It's a chilling example.
Wow. Okay, so let's contrast that with a positive example. Dr. Gonzalez.
Dr. Frank Gonzalez. He had this dream, a passionate desire to start a new kind of college where students would learn by doing. Practical application.
A great idea.
But he struggled. For 2 years, he just thought about it, talked about it, no real progress on funding. Then something shifted. He made a definite, absolute decision.
It was.
He decided he would get the $1 million needed within 1 week.
1 week? From zero?
Yeah.
That's incredibly bold.
Audacious. He had no idea how, but the decision was made. And the moment he made it, he felt this strange feeling of assurance, this certainty.
Like the commitment itself changed something internally.
It seems so. He announced he'd preach a sermon titled, "What I Would Do If I Had $1 Million." He'd mentally prepared it for 2 years, but now it felt different. He visualized having the money, prayed with conviction. Then he got to the pulpit. He realized he'd forgotten his notes.
Oh, no. Disaster.
Actually a blessing. His subconscious, fully charged by the decision and faith, took over. He spoke from the heart, describing his dream college with such passion it electrified the audience.
And someone in the audience.
Was Mr. Philip D. Armour, the famous industrialist. He was so moved by Gonzalez's vision and unwavering faith that he later gave him the full $1 million.
Incredible. And that became the Armour Institute of Technology.
Directly from an idea, backed by burning desire, fueled by faith, and a definite decision.
So the takeaway for you, listening, is pretty profound. Your mind, especially the subconscious, is this incredibly powerful engine.
And the crucial question is, what fuel are you giving it? Are you feeding it faith and constructive thoughts, or fear and doubt?
Because it will act on whatever you feed it repeatedly, especially if there's emotion attached. That's the core of autosuggestion.
It's presented as the key to building and sustaining that necessary faith.
Now, this isn't just an individual game, is it? Hill emphasizes connecting with others, which brings us to the mastermind.
Yes, the mastermind principle. It's really central to his whole philosophy, a driving force behind massive success.
How does he define it exactly?
As the coordination of knowledge and effort between two or more people working together in perfect harmony towards a definite purpose.
Harmony being the key word there.
Absolutely key.
Yeah.
And he states very clearly that no one achieves great power or success without using the mastermind principle in some way.
Okay, so what are the benefits? He talks about two types, right? Economic and psychic.
That's right. Economically, it's about synergy, combining advice, counsel, cooperation for mutual benefit. He claims this is the foundation of almost every great fortune.
Makes sense. Shared knowledge, combined effort. But the psychic part sounds more intriguing.
It is. He'll suggest that when minds align in true harmony, no conflict, shared goals, their spiritual energy units create an affinity. It's more than just brainstorming.
What does he mean by affinity, like increased energy?
Exactly. He compares it to batteries connected together. The combined output isn't just additive, it's multiplicative. This amplified thought energy leads to better ideas, stronger resolve, intuitive leaps you wouldn't get alone.
So it's like a mental force multiplier.
That's a good way to put it. Look at Henry Ford again. Started with handicaps, poverty, little schooling.
But he rose incredibly fast.
And Hill points out his most rapid progress began when he became close friends with Thomas Edison.
Linking up with another great mind.
And then others too, Harvey Firestone, John Burroughs, Luther Burbank. Ford had this amazing ability to absorb the intelligence, experience, even the spiritual forces of these men he associated with harmoniously.
As Hill says, men take on the nature and the power of thought of those with whom they associate.
In a spirit of sympathy and harmony, it's like intellectual osmosis.
Another huge example is the creation of U.S. Steel, Charles Schwab's speech.
Incredible story. Schwab, who worked closely with Andrew Carnegie, was at this dinner with J.P. Morgan and other top bankers. He was told to keep it brief, businesslike.
But he didn't, did he?
No, he spoke for 90 minutes. Passionately laying out his vision for consolidating the steel industry. It wasn't just a speech, it was a powerful idea combined with immense faith.
And Morgan, who was initially skeptical,
was completely won over. That very night, the concept for the colossal United States Steel Corporation was born. Schwab's idea, presented with conviction to the right group, was marketed for a profit gambling. Hill estimates around $600 million.
Wow. This shows the power of organized thought within a receptive group.
Absolutely. So for you listening, it begs the question, who are you surrounding yourself with? Are you consciously building your own mastermind alliance?
People who share your purpose, who elevate your thinking, it could amplify everything.
That collective power helps shape desire into reality. And the birthplace of those initial ideas and plans, that's imagination.
Right. Hill calls imagination the workshop wherein are fashioned all plans created by man.
It's where desire first takes shape, gets form, finds path to action. He believed our only real limitation, reasonably speaking, is how well we develop and use our imagination.
He breaks it down into two types, doesn't he? Synthetic and creative.
Yes. Synthetic imagination is the practical kind. You're arranging old concepts, existing ideas, known plans into new combinations, like an inventor combining known principles in a new way. This is used most often in turning desire into money initially.
So working with what's already known, but rearranging it.
Exactly. Then there's creative imagination. This is more advanced, more elusive. He calls it the sixth sense.
The sixth sense, what does that entail?
This is about direct communication with what Hill terms infinite intelligence. It's where you get sudden insights, hunches, pure inspiration, the realm of genius.
And it can be triggered by intense emotion, but also cultivated deliberately.
Yes, it's not just random flashes. You can work to develop it.
The book has some great stories about imagination. The Enchanted Kettle.
Ah, yes. The old country doctor sells his worn-out kettle, paddle, and a secret formula to a drug clerk for $500, the clerk's life savings.
The doctor thinks he got a great deal.
He does, but the clerk adds something the doctor didn't have. An idea born from imagination mixed with the formula.
And that idea turns the kettle into, well, something much more.
Fortunes were made. It even funded a college and provided jobs during the Depression. The value wasn't the kettle, it was the imaginative idea applied to it.
We also see it with Dr. Elmer Gates, the inventor.
Who literally made a living by sitting for ideas. He'd consciously cultivate his creative faculty to receive new scientific principles for corporations. Over 200 patents came from this method.
Even Edison trying 10,000 combinations with synthetic imagination for the light bulb.
Before finally tapping into creative imagination, that hunch, to get the final piece. And Lincoln, achieving greatness after age 40, Hill suggests through discovering and using his creative imagination, possibly spurred by love and sorrow.
So the point is, your imagination isn't just for daydreaming. It's a practical tool.
A vital workshop for building plans, attracting ideas, shaping your desires. The question is, how actively are you using yours? Are you giving it the focus it needs?
This power isn't just for ideas, though. It applies to how you present yourself, how you market yourself, especially in what Hill called a changed world.
Right. Remember, he's writing after the Depression. He saw a major shift happening in the economy.
From the rule of gold to the golden rule.
Exactly. The old, purely self-interested cutthroat approach was dying out, he argued. Survival meant embracing mutual cooperation.
So the relationship between employers, employees, and the public had to change.
Fundamentally, it became a partnership. The old public be damned attitude was finished. It had to be replaced by a service mindset. We are obligingly at your service.
And he felt this change came directly from the Depression's hard lessons. People trying to get without giving.
That was his assessment, yes. Demanding more for less, expecting handouts.
So in terms of marketing yourself, whether you're a company or an individual, the focus had to be on providing genuine value, serving efficiently.
Fail to serve well, and you lose the chance to serve at all. The go-getter replaced by the go-giver. Precisely. And it's striking how relevant that feels today with all the focus on customer service, value propositions, ethical business.
It really is. And he gives a very practical formula for this. The QQS rating.
QQS, quality, quantity, and spirit of cooperation.
Let's break that down. Quality.
Quality means doing every part of your job as efficiently and excellently as possible, always aiming to improve. Master your craft.
Quantity.
Quantity means the habit of giving all the service you're capable of all the time and constantly aiming to increase your output as you grow. Give your maximum effort consistently.
And spirit. This seems key.
Spirit is about your attitude, maintaining agreeable, harmonious conduct that actually encourages cooperation from everyone around you. Hill insists quality and quantity aren't enough alone. The spirit you bring determines your long-term success and compensation. It shapes your environment.
That's a powerful framework for anyone. How does your QQS stack up? It makes you think.
Yeah.
He also challenges the idea of always starting at the bottom, doesn't he?
He does. He suggests that with strategic planning, you can aim to start a step or two higher, get a better perspective sooner, accelerate your progress.
And this planning involves creating a detailed brief about yourself, like a lawyer's case.
Exactly. Far more than a resume. It's your personal sales plan. Include detailed education, experience, reasons for choices. Crucially, photostatic copies of references and testimonials.
Wow, photostats. Definitely from 1937. The principle holds.
The principle holds. Also, a professional photo. Apply for a specific position, showing you have relevant skills. Detail why you fit that role.
And the bold move. Offer to work on probation.
To show supreme confidence, but maybe the killer element. Demonstrate deep knowledge of the employer's business. That shows imagination and real interest. You've done your homework.
He gives examples like the woman who planned her son's job search. Helped him land an executive role, desired salary, first interview, bypassed years of climbing.
Or Stuart Austin Weir, changing careers to law after 40. Focused on specialized courses. Built a practice quickly, even during the Depression. Or the accountant with bookkeeping offices on wheels. All examples of strategic, value-driven self-marketing.
Okay, so you've got desire, persistence, faith, maybe a mastermind, imagination, a plan to market yourself.
Yeah.
But there's still this internal battle, isn't there? The fears.
Ah, yes. The internal adversaries. The 6 ghosts of fear, as Hill calls them. This section is crucial.
He sees them as fundamentally undermining everything else.
Absolutely. He believes these fears keep huge numbers of people in poverty, blocking their potential, and he maps out how it starts. Indecision.
Indecision is the seed.
It's the seedling of fear. Left alone, it grows into doubt, and doubt and indecision merge into fear itself. They're dangerous because they grow slowly, often unnoticed, until they're deeply rooted.
So let's identify these 6 ghosts. What's the first and maybe the biggest?
Fear of poverty. He argues this is the most destructive, rooted in our tendency to compete economically, causing underlying anxiety about lack.
What are the symptoms?
Indifference, chronic indecision, doubt, worry, overcaution leading to inaction, procrastination, always waiting for the right time. Also, pessimism, lack of ambition, lack of self-control.
He really emphasizes the crushing effect of poverty itself, how it drains the spirit.
He does. Being down and out, he says, erodes self-respect, kills ambition. Even small debts become soul-crushing. It's not just about lacking things, it's a deep spiritual weight.
Okay, number 2.
Fear of criticism. This one's insidious. It kills initiative, destroys imagination, limits individuality, undermines self-reliance.
How does that show up?
Crippling self-consciousness, lack of poise, hesitation, lack of ambition, sometimes even extravagant spending to keep up appearances, driven by fear of judgment.
Like the examples he gives. Bald men wearing hats unnecessarily. Fashion changes driven by fear.
Exactly. Or parents damaging children with constant criticism, planting fear instead of confidence. It's pervasive.
Third fear.
Fear of ill health, linked to fears of old age and death, worried about the economic toll, maybe fueled by scary images of sickness.
Symptoms here.
Hypochondria, imaginary illness, self-coddling, using illness as an excuse, intemperance, using substances to escape anxiety instead of dealing with the cause.
He mentions that experiment where people were made ill just by suggestion.
Yes. Repeatedly telling someone they look sick can actually make them feel sick. Shows the mind-body connection, or how disappointment in love can cause real physical illness.
Right. Okay, 4th fear.
Fear of loss of love of someone. A very primal fear, going back ages. Hill suggests women might feel it more due to historical social dynamics, but it affects everyone.
And the symptoms can be destructive.
Very. Jealousy, constant fault-finding, gambling, drinking, even infidelity, sometimes driven by the fear of losing love or trying to fill a void.
5th fear.
Fear of old age. Often tied to the fear of poverty in later life, maybe old religious teachings about decline, fear of losing health or attractiveness.
What does this look like in practice?
A tendency to slow down prematurely, developing an inferiority complex around middle age. Or the opposite, desperately trying to act young, sowing wild oats, dissipating energy out of panic.
And the final one, the 6th ghost.
Fear of death, the ultimate unknown. Often linked to religious fears of punishment or economic worries about leaving loved ones behind.
Symptoms here seem profound.
They can be. Worrying constantly about death, lacking purpose, inability to commit to a vocation, poor health, poverty, even insanity or religious fanaticism as ways to cope or escape the fear.
That story of the condemned man finding peace just before execution is striking.
Paradoxical, isn't it? By accepting the inevitable, deciding not to fight it, he found release from worry.
So what's the antidote Hill proposes for all these fears?
One powerful word, decision.
Decision. How does that work?
His point is, worry thrives in indecision. Once you decide on a definite course of action, even if the outcome is uncertain, the worry diminishes. You're moving forward.
So commit to a path.
Commit. And he suggests a kind of blanket decision, deciding that nothing life throws at you is worth the price of constant worry. That brings poise, peace, happiness.
Easier said than done, maybe.
Perhaps. But the practical method is mind control. You either control your mind or it controls you. Keep it busy with a definite purpose and a definite plan. That leaves less room for fear to creep in.
He includes those self-analysis questions too, doesn't he? A kind of personal inventory.
Yes, 28 really probing questions, asking yourself honestly, have I delivered the best quality service, the right quantity? Was my spirit cooperative? Did I waste energy through lack of concentration? Am I in the right line of work?
It forces you to confront where these fears might be operating in your life.
Exactly. It's about self-awareness and consciously choosing to counteract those negative influences.
Okay, so conquering fear is crucial. But then Hill moves into some areas that might be even more powerful, maybe more controversial. Sex transmutation and the 6th sense.
Definitely areas that raise eyebrows, but he considered them critical. He presents sex energy as the most powerful human emotion, the strongest driving force.
And his point isn't to suppress it.
No, absolutely not. Not to submerge or eliminate it, but to transmute it. redirect it. Channel that immense energy away from purely physical expression into creative effort and productive action.
Transmuted into genius, essentially.
That's his claim. When harnessed and redirected, it can elevate someone to the status of genius. It's taking that raw power and wiring it towards your highest goals.
He connects this to high achievers being highly sexed.
He observed that men of great achievement often had strong sex drives, but had learned, consciously or not, this art of redirection. He controversially suggested most men don't hit their peak before 40 or 50, partly because they dissipate this energy earlier.
And he links it to personal magnetism, like in sales.
Yeah, that charisma, that enthusiasm, he attributes it often to transmuted sex energy. Master salespeople turn that raw emotion into focused sales enthusiasm.
He also talks a lot about the influence of women.
A major theme. He found most great leaders were inspired by women. He believed a man's desire to please a woman is his strongest motivator, provocatively saying, take women out of their lives and great wealth would be useless to most men.
Giving women a subtle but powerful influence.
The power to make or break a man based on how that desire is channeled or responded to.
So again, the question for the listener is about consciously directing your most powerful energies towards your highest goals.
Precisely. Are you channeling that fundamental drive into creative, productive pursuits, which leads naturally into the concept of the sixth sense?
Okay, the sixth sense. How does he explain this? Is it psychic ability?
He frames it more like the brain acting as a broadcasting and receiving station for thought vibrations, especially when the mind is stepped up by strong emotion, like intense desire or, again, sex energy.
Making it more receptive.
More receptive to subtle thought vibrations from outside sources, even from infinite intelligence, as he puts it.
And the sixth sense, or creative imagination, is the faculty that picks this up.
Yes. It's how you receive those sudden insights, hunches, flashes of inspiration that seem to come from beyond your conscious reasoning. It's the faculty of genius.
We saw examples like Dr. Gates sitting for ideas.
Right. Or the financier closing his eyes to tap into superior intelligence before big decisions. Or orators accessing ideas from within at key moments.
And Hill's own practice was quite remarkable, the invisible counselors.
Truly fascinating. His nightly imaginary council meetings with figures like Emerson, Edison, Lincoln, Napoleon.
Visualizing them, talking to them.
Vividly, asking them for their qualities, Edison's faith, Lincoln's wisdom. His goal was to rebuild his own character by internalizing theirs through this autosuggestive process.
And he claimed they became apparently real, offering advice.
He did. He said they developed individual characteristics, sometimes even chided him. Lincoln, in his imagination, offered words of encouragement about facing adversity. Hill felt these sessions profoundly shaped him.
So the underlying idea is that we can access knowledge and insight beyond our immediate senses, especially when the mind is stimulated and focused.
That's the core concept. It raises the question for you. How can you tap into your sixth sense? How can you cultivate that creative imagination to receive more?
Now, all these powerful internal tools, desire, persistence, faith, imagination, they operate in the real world, in a society and economy. Hill addresses this in the final part, focusing on the American opportunity.
Yes, and his perspective is very much shaped by his time post-Depression America. He saw the U.S. as offering unparalleled freedom and opportunity for wealth accumulation.
He lists specific freedoms, right? Thought, deed, residence, choice.
Freedom to marry who you choose, equal opportunity, in theory. Freedom to travel, choose foods, and crucially, the freedom to aim for any station in life, even for the presidency. A vision of immense possibility.
And he uses that example of the cheap breakfast in Times Square.
Yeah, the 20-cent breakfast sourced from around the globe, Florida, grapefruit, Kansas wheat, China tea, South American bananas, Cuban sugar, all brought together affordably for almost anyone.
Which leads him to his point about organized capital.
And here it's really important we just report his view impartially. He explicitly says he's not arguing for or against any group or system, not condemning collective bargaining, not giving capitalists a free pass.
Okay, important context. So bearing that in mind, what was his argument?
He argued that organized capital, the capitalists, the infrastructure they build, are essentially the brains of civilization. They provide the machinery, ships, railroads, the organized labor needed for modern life for that breakfast to even exist.
His thought experiment was, try getting that breakfast without organized capital.
Right. Swim to China for tea, walk to Cuba for sugar. It highlights the complexity and scale involved, which he attributes to capitalists.
Why did he think they did this? What motivated them?
He saw them as driven by imagination, faith, enthusiasm, decision, persistence, motivated by a desire to build, serve, profit, and accumulate riches. And because they provide services essential for civilization, they naturally position themselves to gain wealth.
He also had that strong critique about the cause of the Depression itself, didn't he?
Yes, he squarely blamed it on people trying to get without giving, demanding more pay for less work, demanding government relief without effort. He even tells that anecdote about relief recipients complaining checks arrived too early in the morning.
So his core argument was that true prosperity comes from productive service and contribution within the system.
That's the essence of it, reciprocal exchange. He concludes that America provides all the freedom and opportunity needed for any honest person to succeed.
It's definitely a perspective rooted in its time, but it raises that ongoing question about the balance of giving and getting in any system, doesn't it?
It certainly does. A provocative thought about contribution and reward.
So wrapping up this deep dive into Think and Grow Rich, it really is a journey through a powerful, if sometimes controversial, philosophy.
Absolutely. We've hit the core tenets.
Yep.
That foundational power of a burning, definite desire.
The absolute need for persistence, viewing setbacks not as failure, but as forging resilience. And faith, not just belief, but something actively cultivated through autosuggestion.
We looked at the leverage you get from a mastermind alliance, harmonious, coordinated effort multiplying potential, and imagination as that vital workshop where plans are born.
Then the practical strategy for marketing yourself using quality, quantity, and spirit, the QQS rating, and facing down those internal demons, the 6 ghosts of fear, with the antidote of definite decision.
And finally, those powerful, maybe less understood concepts. Channeling sex energy through transmutation and tapping into the sixth sense, the creative imagination for higher insights, all framed by Hill's view on opportunity and contribution.
Hill really believed the world is full of opportunity for those who refuse limits, who understand that the greatest powers are often intangible, waiting inside us.
So the final thought for you, listening. What impossible dream are you ready to ignite with that braining desire, that unshakable persistence, knowing these principles are now yours to explore and apply?
We hope this deep dive has sparked some thoughts, maybe some questions, and hopefully some motivation to act on your own definite purpose.
Until next time, keep thinking and keep growing.